I still love that opening.
I got to get one for Fridays with Justin in it because
It's okay.
that's all right because you're here every Friday.
How are you guys doing today? You ready to make peace?
Yeah, I am ready to get this done. Absolutely.
Why?
Right.
We're making, was that make pee or peace?
Peace. Definitely not
Peace.
pee. Yeah, peace.
Okay, cool. I just need to know. I'm an older guy and I don't hear as well as I should.
Yeah, we can take bio breaks if needed, though, Ray. But
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
it's Friday, everyone. I'm excited to be here, without the controversy, without the arguing, and it's the talk EV news because it's been kind of a slow week, but there have been some meaningful things going on. What has really caught your eye this week, Justice?
So this week I was looking at a Ford. Let me see. I can share my screen. I figured it out. Let's see. Ford is slashing its prices on the Mach-E, undercutting Tesla. Yay!
Wow.
If you live in China, that is great.
Yes.
They are not, however, doing that here in the United States. But they have cut the Mustang Mach-E by $5,900 over in China to be competitive in that market, which is great for China.
It's great for China. Let's see. What is the starting base price in the United States right now? I'm trying to pull that up.
Isn't it around 50 grand?
Yeah, it was, but right now it's looking a little bit different on Ford's Builder online configurator. It's not showing me anything less than the California Route 1, which starts at 58 grand. So that could be like interesting.
Yeah.
I forget there are other trims. That is the one I see the most here in California for maybe obvious reasons.
Yeah, the range is pretty decent. I mean, a lot of people love the Mustang Mach-E. It's got solid range. Charging is above average, although not the best in the segment. It's American made mostly. Do they make that in Mexico?
I think they do, actually.
North American made. That's what
North American made, yeah.
Yeah, and on Ford's own website it says base MSRP, excluding the destination fees, of course, is about $43,000. So we'll call that 45.
Okay.
And for that you get 230 miles of range. So it's I could see why the California Route 1 would be more popular, because for 44 grand you can get an Ioniq 5 or an EV6 that goes a bit further but charges a lot faster. It'd be nice if there were some more price cuts here in the United States for the Mustang Mach-E, but we can't forget, Justice, they did drop prices about a month or two ago, once Tesla did its huge price slashing.
Yeah.
Tanked their own prices. There was a price cut in the United States. So
there was, but they just weren't undercutting Tesla in the United States.
I have a question, Justice, if I may.
Yeah.
Do we have any idea how many Mach-E's they actually sell in China? Is it that big of a market for them?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think so. When the last time I saw the chart, it was like BYD took half of it, and then Tesla took another like 40%, and then everybody else made everything else.
Gotcha. So and the only reason I ask is because, as we know, Ford keeps saying that they're losing money on every Model E or every electric vehicle that they wholesale to their dealer body. So it makes you wonder how they could cut the price by almost $6,000 even in China.
Yeah,
it looks like they sold just under 8,000 last year in China, but they sold about 40,000 here in the United States.
Yeah.
Okay.
It ain't no F-150 though, when it comes to sales numbers.
No, it's not.
You know what? It is due time for a massive price cut on the Kia EV6. Because I don't know if you guys remember this, but the Kia EV6, they eliminated the base model for 2023. So the cheapest, or rather most affordable, lowest price, because it ain't cheap, it ain't affordable.
Yeah.
The lowest priced Kia EV6 in 2023 is about 48 grand, whereas previously it was about 41, 42 grand. So that's what I want to see. Because I'm going to go out there and say it. I think the Kia EV6 is a better electric powertrain than the Mustang Mach-E. So look into that if you guys are interested.
It is.
What
I would agree with you. I like the Mach-E a little bit more, like
I think it looks
styling,
better.
but yeah, I mean, I think the stats on the EV6 are clearly better.
what is the big selling point for the EV6?
Fast charging. That is the selling point.
Okay.
It's the same eGMP platform as my own Hyundai Ioniq 5. You can see behind me. So that gets you in ideal conditions, which basically means temperatures above 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 to 80% in 18, 19 minutes. So that adds about 170, 180 miles of driving range in less than 20 minutes. And as my family has been traveling around, stopping at 350 kilowatt Electrify America fast chargers, we typically are not done grabbing a snack and getting the kiddo to the restroom by the time it has finished charging. So it's pretty quick.
Wow. Okay.
Kind of looks
So
like
is fast charging or charging times, is that the key selling factor for most EVs today?
It depends. What do you got to say about this, Justice?
I would say it's one of them. Like you're either probably a range person or a charge speed person, likely. Like one of those two factors, if not both, are very important to you. Probably right now, as adoption is just sort of starting, and people are sort of still scared of. I know on today's show with you and Kimberly Ray, we had a lot in the comments talking about, once again, the apartment dwelling situation and charging, which again, I always push back on because I live in an apartment and I don't charge at home and I have absolutely no problems with it. But that meant that idea is out there. So you either want something that's going to hold a lot of range, you don't have to go and charge a lot, or you want something that charges at least fast when you do have to go out.
And I'm not trying to be ignorant because I don't have to try. I just am. What is the longest range in ideal conditions that's available out there on any of the EVs, even if it's not necessarily the most popular?
Model
Lucid
S Plaid.
Air.
Model S Plaid beats a Lucid.
Lucid Air.
No, Model S Plaid beats a Lucid Air.
In what real world testing? Let me know because I'm not familiar.
Well, no, he's saying ideal conditions. So by range and everything, it's the Plaid, right?
Which gets what? What's the alleged range?
I'm gonna pull that up. The stats here.
Pretty sure it's the Lucid Air.
Learning Fast said Lucid Air is over 500 miles.
Hard to replicate in real life, though. I've met some Lucid Air owners at EA stations, and it is tough. This one guy was cruising along at 80 miles an hour and wondering why his range was 300 miles. That is a lot less than 500.
Yes. Do manufacturers recommend an optimum speed to travel at when you're on a highway in order to maintain as much range as possible? And do we know what that would be?
Well, since electric vehicles don't have gears that you can shift into to optimize efficiency at higher speeds, the faster you're going, the more energy, just raw physics, the more energy you've got to put into it, the faster you're going. You can't just simply shift into a higher gear. And
learning fast is correct. I am wrong. You were right, Justin.
Well, but I also got to give it to you, Justice. Like, first of all, I would own a Model S way before I'd ever own a Lucid Air. We can get into that if you want to. So Model S for the win. But EPA rated the Lucid Air is about what, 520 at the
526. Yeah, 526.
$140,000 trim.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm never going to own one of those.
And the Plaid is 396. So
wow, so that's a significant difference.
Yeah,
130-mile difference.
Yeah, but in reality, Ray, when you're looking at any range for any electric vehicle, when you're talking about the EPA rated range, first of all, there's also city and highway, right? But
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
combined range, you're going to be typically talking about 65 miles per hour.
Okay.
Now, where I live, that's actually about how fast we drive on the curvy mountain roads, even on the interstate around here. Sometimes 70 if you're feeling like pushing it. But yeah, it's not that hard to get EPA rated highway range where I live. But if you're in West Texas, the interstates in California, you're going 85. You're going to be seeing range
At
way
least.
lower than the EPA rated certification with an electric vehicle. So that's just a fact that it's a different dynamic that you have to get used to when you're cross shopping EVs. Like 250 miles is the EPA, 256 is the EPA rated range for the Ioniq 5. But on the interstate, I don't drive really fast. I mean, I typically go 5 over the speed limit.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't know if that's legal or not, but pretty sure it's not. I typically get like 220 on the interstate. So that's just
Yeah.
EV ownership.
It definitely depends on how you're driving, because with regen braking and stuff, my everyday on the Tesla, I get right around EPA, no problem. If I'm taking a road trip and I'm doing a lot of freeway, no way. That goes down just so dramatically because there's no regen braking to come back into it. My drag is so low, like it's in there. But
So,
for range, right, just real fast, the first non-Tesla or Lucid to hit the range. So Lucid is at 516.
Yeah.
With the longest range, and the next non-Tesla is Mercedes at 340-mile range.
Wow. Big difference.
Yeah.
What is it that Lucid does that allows them to have significantly more range?
mostly drag coefficients, meaning that it's very slippery as it's sliding through the air at higher speeds.
Gotcha.
The lower the drag coefficient, the easier it is to get higher mileage. For example, my car, take a look at it behind me. It's not very sleek when it comes to drag. So my car is not going to get the best range because of the shape. But the Ioniq 6, which is coming out later this year and has already arrived in Europe, actually, the Ioniq 6 from Hyundai, they've designed it to have a 0.21 drag coefficient, which if I'm not mistaken is what the Model 3 has. So it's going to have over 300 miles of range. That's a huge factor, Ray.
So it's shaped more than anything.
Yeah, a lot of teardrop shapes. I believe back in the day, Ray, you and I had a conversation about this on the show where you're asking me, why do all EVs, in your opinion, you said they all look the same?
Yeah.
And I disagreed with you.
You did. And I still think most of them, for the vast majority of them, pretty much have the same shape and design and look.
But
apparently there's only so many ways you can sculpt these things.
Well, you want to get the maximum, range out of it and the best drag coefficient, and which is also why you see all the EVs with flat door handles and not what you would consider normal door handles, because all that matters.
Yes.
It's not just a design choice. Hey, we're an EV, we're gonna have flat door handles. It's in there to decrease drag coefficient to get the longest range, which is why the story of the Mach-E having 70 extra pounds of cables was such a big deal, because like you're doing all these shapes and everything, you're flattening the door handles to get an extra 1 mile range out of your vehicle. And then you put 70 extra pounds of useless cables into it. You kind of go, hey, do you guys know what you're doing? Do you? So that's where that sort of comes in. And I just want to respond to Kimberly real fast. I didn't say how fast I drive. So
and I don't recall saying how fast I drive.
I drive safely
because I don't want them looking for me when I am driving.
Yes. CHP might be watching this, so I'm not gonna tell you how fast I drive when I go down to LA.
Well, I will tell you. I will tell you on my drive from Bethesda to the my first drive from Bethesda to my condo, which was 190 miles. I made it in 2 hours and 38 minutes. So I think that was pretty quick.
So, Ray, with everything we've talked about, I've got to ask you.
Yes.
Considering everything we've mentioned, would you rather have an electric vehicle? Just pretend you want an electric vehicle, okay? At least
Okay.
pretend. Would you rather have an EV with 500 miles of range that takes 45 minutes to charge from 10 to 80%, or an EV with 250 miles of range that takes 20 minutes to charge from 10 to 80%?
I think I'd have to sit down and actually do some math to calculate the amount of time I would have to save using the vehicle with the smaller range but the faster charging. Um, would would I have to charge twice while I'm driving the smaller range and faster charging to get the equivalent mileage of the vehicle that I has greater range but slower charging? Um, and my supposition, this is just a supposition, I haven't done the math, but my guess is that the ultimately the amount of time spent charging would probably be equal for the amount of miles driven.
Yeah,
I'm,
pretty
I'm
close to it. It
yeah,
comes down to lifestyle preferences because I don't want to sit in a car for more than 2.5, 3 hours without taking a break. We typically take a 15-minute stop every 2 hours, anyways, because we got a kid in the back seat.
sure.
So that's like, I don't know, because whenever you got a larger battery enabling you to go 500 miles, or just a larger battery, period, by nature, that drives up the cost of the vehicle, the upfront
Yes.
cost. And it's also worse for the environment because you're mining a lot more of those materials out of the earth, and that's no good. So, yeah, it just depends on your lifestyle choices. But thank you for sharing that feedback, Ray. I was curious what you thought.
I would tend, I believe, if all I was interested in was range, I would tend to buy the car that has more range. But the reality of the situation is, much like you, I don't want to drive for like more than 2.5 hours at a time
Hmm.
without getting out and stretching my legs, going to get a cup of coffee or whatever it is. So I would probably be fine with the car that has the 250-mile range that charges twice as fast.
Yeah, so Ray, for like me, it's 400 miles from me to Los Angeles, uh, proper city center.
Yes.
I drive about 450 miles when I go down there because I actually overshoot LA. But so in 450 miles, I have to stop 3 times on my current Model S, which is just standard range,
Yeah.
uh, but no more than 8 minutes on any stop.
Model 3, right?
Model 3, yeah.
Yeah.
What did I say?
Model
Did I
S.
say?
S. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, am I dreaming the Model
Yeah,
S? So,
that was in
yeah,
dream mode.
that was a dream that I have a Model S in which I would not have to stop 3 times. But I have my Model 3 standard range.
So
So
how far do you normally drive before you stop?
on the planner, it's about every 2 hours. It's an hour and a half on the first stop because
Yeah.
I'm in the valley, so I got to get out of the mountains.
Yes.
And then it's 2 hours each time after there, and I hit LA with 20% battery. So like, but again, the longest stop is 8 minutes, which is perfect for me. I can charge, I can go use the restroom,
Yes.
come back,
Get a
you
snack.
know, yeah, get a snack, stretch my back, get back into the car and go. Like that's even the 8 minutes is actually a short amount of time when you figure waiting in line, shopping for the snack, whatever, waiting for the
Absolutely.
restroom stuff. So for me, it's not really a big deal to get and stop and go.
Here's a question that I've never asked, and you saying stretching your back just made it pop into my mind. But ergonomically speaking, um, how are the seats in a Tesla compared to other vehicles out there? I mean, because obviously, if you have a bad back, and I know I do, um,
As do I.
yes, seats make a difference. Not
Hmm.
every manufacturer's seats are comfortable for everybody. Many are uncomfortable for me. So I was just curious because, I've never even sat in a Tesla of any kind. So I was just curious as to what the ergonomics are of their seats and what the comfort level is of their seats.
So for me, right, first off, let me say, like, I don't come from Mercedes BMW driving background. right? I come from a Mustang Kia Optima driving background.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not at that higher trim level. So I will say for me, the Tesla seats are a lot more comfortable. I like the heat. I use the heated portion of the seat because of my back all the time, even in
Mm-hmm.
summer. But I will say this about my Model 3, I have to get out of it differently than I did my Kia. So for I've got problems in my legs and my knees. So
Uh-huh.
for the Tesla, I actually have to swing both my feet out to then stand up rather than one foot and just, push myself out. So there was a learning curve on that for me. My Kia was easier for me to get out of with just one foot.
Mm-hmm.
So for whatever that's worth, like I don't really care. Okay, I swing both my feet out and stand up. Like that's probably better for my knees anyway than twisting myself out. But I have no problems with the seats; they're very comfortable for me.
I'm sorry, Justin. Maybe you can answer this as well. Since I have no, as everybody is aware, I have no real knowledge of electric vehicles. In an ICE vehicle in the winter time, when it's cold, there's enough heat generated from the engine and from the radiator that you can heat the interior of the car. That's where the heat comes from. Where does it come from on an electric vehicle?
Excellent question. So most models use resistance heating to warm the interior, at least especially the older models did. A lot of them these days use a heat pump, and I'm not going to pretend like I understand how a heat pump really works. But
Uh-huh.
I know that my own Ioniq 5, it uses quite a bit of electricity to heat the cabin because it's resistance heating. So that energy is coming right from the battery pack. And
Gotcha.
I've noticed a pretty large drop in efficiency whenever the cabin heater is on.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes and no on that for me. You are correct. That's the one thing about an EV, Ray, and I think we did this on Phil's show, his first show. We talked about it briefly. Is on an EV, when the heater's running, you will degrade your range. Where on an ICE vehicle, only the air conditioner does that, and the heater pulls from the engine. So there is something there on the EV with that. You will lose range, but I will push back only, not really push back. I will just state, Justin, on mine, the way I don't lose range is when I heat up the cabin, it's also conditioning the battery to heat up the battery.
Mm.
So on a cold day when I'm using the heater, I don't lose as much range by driving on a cold battery. So actually, it's better for me in the Model 3 to turn on the heater and drive it without the battery being so cold. I lose much more range driving on a cold battery.
That's one of the Tesla advantages. Other competitors have started to do that, but they haven't quite mastered it like Tesla has. For example, Hyundai just pushed out an update that you have to go to the dealership to get to enable battery preconditioning in the winter. So what that does, Ray, is once you're going to a fast charger,
Mm-hmm.
if you've put the fast charger's address into the vehicle's navigation system and you're on your way, the car will know that you're heading to a charger and it will start to warm up the battery.
Wow.
Because you want the battery to be at the optimal temperature, which is typically about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Justice, but you want the battery to be at the right temperature to get the fastest charging, and the
Yes.
car can warm it up for you. That does use some energy, but typically it's worth it to use that energy to warm the battery if you get to charge a lot quicker. However, an example of how not all automakers are able to do this as successfully and flawlessly as Tesla is that once Hyundai did this, it so-called nerfed the eco mode. So eco mode is the most efficient driving mode in my car. However, with this new update, they inadvertently made eco mode kind of useless. Someone recorded that the 0 to 40 miles per hour time was like 10 seconds, 12 seconds, something like that. Whereas typically my car goes 0 to 60 in 5 seconds.
Wow.
So they had to reissue another update and get that whole mess figured out. But Justice, with your Tesla, I mean, I envy your flawlessly integrated battery preconditioning. I envy the supercharger network. Yeah, you've got a nice car, Justice.
I have an advantage too, Ray, in that EVs should be operated at the average California temperature.
That's true. So
it really is true. Like the ideal temperature for an EV is the average temperature in Northern California.
Gotcha. Okay. So you just happen to live.
So I did happen to live where, like, most of the year you're going to be in a really great condition to be driving an EV, like, which is part of why it's adopted well here. I don't have snow. I don't have what Justin's dealing with right now. I just don't get that.
So having said that, what are the things that manufacturers are thinking of, or are there things that they could think of that would compensate for those who live like where Justin lives, or Phil in Michigan, so that it isn't impacted as much by temperatures, outside temperatures, as it is today? I mean, they must be working on something along those lines.
It's the heat pumps.
Shouts out to James.
Are exactly what changes the game for those in cold environments. Absolutely. And I am devastated to hear Justin say he doesn't fully understand how they work, because I was relying on him to explain it to me, because I don't know either.
I can tell you how a heat pump works. Believe it or not, when I built, God bless him, my neighbor lives literally across the hall from me, my neighbor Jay, who was a home builder. And back in the 70s, the late 70s, I built an energy efficient home out here in the Atlantic City area. And we literally, I was the first residential installation of a GE heat pump at that time. Okay. And what a heat pump does is, even in cold air, there is heat that can be extracted from it. Okay. And so that's basically what it does. Even in the cold air, it can extract the heat out of the air. And allegedly it's a lot more efficient than a non-heat pump. For having been the very first residential installation of a GE heat pump, they paid to do some additional landscaping on my property, so when they took pictures, it looked good.
Nice.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the way to go.
Yeah,
I know that's where Tesla is going, is heat pumps. They've already released some on the Wise in Germany. I don't know where else they've already released. I know that was the first one. So I know that's a big portion of where they're going, is in the cold climates. That's what you get on those. I don't know if that means that they're going to have a cold climate package on Teslas, or if they're all going to start doing it. I'm not sure. I think it depends on. I think the Cybertruck will introduce a lot of new technology to Tesla, and everything will be pre-Cybertruck and post-Cybertruck as far as their technology, batteries, and everything else go. I think we'll see those.
Justin, I have a question for you, because you and not to say that Justice doesn't have the same type of passion for EVs, but from your understanding, what are the technologies of the future that EV manufacturers are looking towards in order to improve not only range, but drivability, quality, whatever of the vehicles moving forward, to make them more desirable to the vast majority of people?
So in order for EVs to ever be successful, they've got to bring the prices down, right? And as much as I care about environmental concerns and whatnot, let's be real, the automakers, they're thinking about costs, right? So in the future, by the end of this decade, it's very clear that we're going to be seeing we're not going to be seeing battery sizes by kilowatt hours of capacity increase very much. We're going to see more efficient electric motors, more efficiently designed vehicles, to where, and in some cases, you're going to see smaller battery packs getting the same mileage out of what you might get today in my Ioniq 5 with a 78 kilowatt hour battery pack. So smaller battery packs, more mileage, that means more efficiency, right? You're going to see automaker investments, which have already been announced, in charging infrastructure, because they themselves have seen that, yeah, if we're investing $10 billion like Mitsubishi just announced the other day. I haven't spoken about Mitsubishi in a while. If we're going to invest that much money in electrification, then we better make sure that there's the consumer confidence because of charging networks. So you're going to see automakers investing a lot of money in charging infrastructure. We've already talked about heat pumps. That's a big one. Heat pumps. But another issue that I've seen in the news lately is improving the marriage between the battery and the software that controls the battery, because that's how you run into the issues that I ran into with my Ioniq 5 software update. And that's how that's one of Tesla's greatest advantages over all others, is they're a software company, as you always say, right, Justice? So you're going to see more efficient EVs. Battery chemistries are also changing. You're going to see a lot less cobalt in batteries in the future, a lot more lithium iron phosphate batteries. And all of these effects are going to eventually translate to, hopefully, more affordable electric vehicles. But at the very minimum, they should not get more expensive. I'm sure hoping they get more affordable, though.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I agree. And manufacturing differences, as we've discussed, Ray, changing, will also help all that a lot. Tesla thinking they can reduce manufacturing costs by 50%. Even if that's an Elon Musk number and it goes down only 25%, that's still a huge, huge savings. So, manufacturing will help with that. All this new technology, LFP batteries, as Justin said, there's a lot of stuff coming out that will hopefully all decrease the cost. And with all the new focus on charging, both from federal government and private companies, once everyone has a Tesla style network and everyone's put that sort of into place and they're all interchangeable, that also helps solve a lot of people's anxiety. As I said, I live in California. It's different for me.
Mm-hmm.
If every state had the infrastructure like California has, I think a lot of these issues in people's minds would dry up.
Mm-hmm. And Justice, you reminded me one of today's news stories. Nissan has said that they're going to be able to drop the cost of producing electric motors by 30% by the end of this decade. And how are they going to do that? It's going to be streamlining how they build them on the production facilities. What's it called? The production line. So they're going to be building their hybrid motors on the same production lines that they build their fully electric motors. That's interesting. So it's interesting things like that, Ray, that automakers are starting to tease out in a somewhat desperate effort to drop their prices so that they can try to get some market share from Tesla. Quite frankly, that's what they're trying to do. Tesla's still 66% of EV market share in the United States.
Hey, Justin, here's a question from Ronald Waters here for you, I think. A few times a year, I have to leave my vehicle parked for a month or more without driving it. If I bought an EV, would this hurt the battery? If so, how could I minimize the damage? I think that's a great question for the lesser drivers who are concerned that their battery is just going to run out while they're not using it.
Now, to my understanding, it does not hurt the battery in a meaningful way. It's not going to hurt the battery more than fast charging too many times in a week, right? It's not going to be long-lasting impacts, but you will notice a drop in the battery percentage state of charge. So you might leave at 80% and come back and it's at 65, 70%. That is what they call phantom drain. And what causes it depends on each specific model. For Hyundai is always trying to connect to the BlueLink software, which is it's such a joke sometimes. BlueLink is crap. It's nothing like Tesla's software, right? Like the app, right? I've got the Blue Link app on my phone. Well, my phone's always trying to connect to my car. And if it was doing that for a month, that alone would drive down the battery percentage. Are there ways to mitigate that? I'm not quite sure, but you'd want to look into specifically which electric vehicle you would end up purchasing to see how to mitigate that. But no, it's not going to ruin your EV.
Yeah, and I've watched videos. One of the worst is the Rivian on phantom drain. For my Model 3, I can tell you that there's a reason why in my app I can say turn off Sentry mode when I'm at home, because the drain from Sentry mode, always watching, is a lot. And if I'm not charging at home, which I don't, if I leave it on, I get significant more phantom drain with that on than with it off.
Going back to the question, so you're not going to lose a lot of charge if you don't drive it for a month. All vehicles have, because of the computers and everything else in the cars, they all have continuous drain on the 12-volt battery. Okay. For instance, at many dealerships, they're required by the manufacturer to test batteries on a monthly basis and charge them as needed to maintain the battery charge at a high enough level. Don't electric vehicles also have 12-volt batteries in them? And if that's the case, would that would letting it sit for a month have more drainage on the 12-volt battery than necessarily on the battery pack that runs the vehicle?
Yes, I mean EVs do have a 12-volt battery, but
for now,
that's true. Tesla's moving away from that.
Yes, Tesla, again, we're going to be talking pre-Cybertruck era and post-Cybertruck era, because that technology is just flat out changing, and the efficiencies are going to be staggering because they're going to get rid of the 12-volt battery and all.
They're going to go to what, a 48-volt battery?
Yeah, they're going to go to 48, which means thinner cables, smaller wires, more efficiency involved in that, and you're going to have it's going to have so much less issues. And they're asking the entire industry, they're telling them, hey, let's all switch over, because there's just more computers in vehicles now doing that. Even in your ICE vehicle, constantly pulling and put that power, and the 12-volt is very inefficient. That's exactly what the Mach-E problem was with the extra cables, is that the cables have to be so thick and so heavy to pull that through that they just need to change out the battery technology altogether.
Well, what did they use the 12-volt battery for in an EV?
It's all used for first off, for safety. Like your door locks and thing in case of an accident. If your battery drains, you can still get out of the car. You can still roll down the window, things like that. And then some of it's just the basic monitoring stuff, right, Justin?
Yeah. So, for example, Ray, in my Ioniq 5, when you press the so-called ignition, the start button, press it one time, it's going to turn on the radio and all that. And that's based on the 12-volt battery. It even shows you that you're draining your 12-volt battery. Gotcha. And when you press it 2 times, the car turns on. Or if you put your foot on the brake, the car turns on all the way, and then you're tapping into the main battery pack. So a lot of the electronics in the car that are just driver facing are going to be powered by 12-volt unless the car is all the way on.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So all the auxiliary stuff.
Yeah. Look how much I'm learning today. Yeah.
Oh, Justin, did you have a more specific answer?
Yeah, we should just have like Chat GPT as a guest on the show sometime to help us out with these questions. But in the meantime, I have found a more accurate research-backed answer about what happens if you let your EV sit for a month and you don't touch it. Researchers and turns out automakers recommend that if you're going to do that, have the state of charge between 50 and 80% whenever you leave, because that is going to minimize any battery degradation at all. It says that if your battery is at less than 20 or higher than 80% state of charge, there can be slightly more battery degradation when you let it sit for so long. And that on average, depending on the model, on average, an EV can lose about 1% state of charge per day. But that's going to vary from one model to another.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I question the LFP batteries. Justin, you probably know more than I do, because LFP, you're recommended to charge to 100 all the time, and they tell you really you should be charging it to 100% at least once a week. So on those, when they're telling you, hey, at least once a week you need to charge to 100%, what happens if those sit? I don't know.
That's kind of annoying, because even in the LFP Model 3, I've seen some charging tests online where it can take you 45 minutes to get to 100%. So that's kind of annoying. I guess I had a misunderstanding. I thought that was one of the strengths of the LFP. So LFP, Ray, is lithium iron phosphate. It's the battery chemistry and the rear wheel drive Model 3 and a few other EVs these days. And one of the strengths is that you're not damaging the battery by charging it to 100%. Over time, I'm talking like over 200,000 miles of driving, you can damage the battery in a meaningful way if you're always charging my car to 100%. It's just not good for the battery chemistry in the cells. But I didn't know, Justice, that they advise that you try to charge to 100%. That'd be kind of annoying for my ownership.
Yeah, I was surprised to read that. So it's just the LFP batteries. But yeah, they're telling you, Tesla literally in the manual said at least once a week, if not always, like just do it. So if you're charging at home though, like not trickle charging, but if you got a level 2 at home, I mean, that seems fine. Like you charge to 100% every night. Great. I mean, but for the people like me or you with trickle charging, that does seem annoying to have to go to 100%.
Yep. I got to go here pretty soon, but I wanted to see if I could wrap up the show with just a few interesting news items that I think you guys will find intriguing. So, when's the last time you've driven a Mitsubishi? I've never driven one.
I had an '88 Lancer.
I like the Lancer.
That was the last Mitsubishi I had.
Yeah, well, I was curious, so I just looked it up. And in 2022, Mitsubishi did sell 85,000 cars in the United States. So that's more than I would have thought. I've lived in Texas and West Virginia and North Carolina, and the places I've lived in, you don't see very many Mitsubishis. But it looks like globally, Mitsubishi corporate is investing a little over $10 billion in electrification. They say that they're going to be a, quote, mostly battery electric vehicle brand by 2035. A big chunk of that's probably because of the trends that you're seeing in Europe, where they're trying to get everyone to go fully electric, or zero emissions rather. But yeah, I'm interested to see where that's going to go. Can't say I have the most confidence in it fully playing out, but I hope we get some cool EVs out of it.
I will say this, in my area where I live in New Jersey, just last year, a new Mitsubishi dealership did open up in West Atlantic City, and it's probably the first new franchise dealership to come into this area in I don't know how many years. So Mitsubishi is making a push to become a little bit more of a player in the United States than it has been for quite some time.
Interesting. I wonder if they'll do what Hyundai and Kia have been doing, and Mazda, trying to become more premium, because that's where the money's at these days. Yeah, so one other news item I've got before I've got to go is this. Let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Not yet.
Not yet?
I can do it, though. Here. Now we can.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the 2024 Hyundai Kona EV. Now, interestingly enough, all Hyundai Konas, EV and otherwise, were apparently redesigned with EVs as the priority. So in other words, aerodynamics as the priority. And the 2024 Hyundai Kona is going to get more range. We currently have the European WLTP range figures. And from that, we can extrapolate that based on how it tends to go, the EPA rated range is going to be pretty close to 300 miles, maybe 280, 290, which is not bad considering that the 2023 Kona EV starts at just $34,000. You got to keep in mind that this is one of the budget EVs on the market. So EVs, you definitely get what you pay for. And for such an affordable EV, you really suffer with the charging times here. You got some great range even in the 2023 model at 258 miles, but it's going to take you like 50 minutes to charge to 80%.
So don't bring that to a Tesla charger, please.
Yeah, it would ruin the day if you've got a line of Teslas waiting to charge. But yeah, so more range. Don't know the price yet here in the United States. I'm guessing it's going to be more than $34,000 like you got with the 23 model, but it looks completely different. So there's that. A lot of people are wondering why they didn't throw the like Ionic name on it, like make it the Ionic 4 or something like that, since you've got Ionic 5, Ionic 6, and 7 on the way. But perhaps it's because this is still based on the 2017 powertrain. It is not an updated powertrain. It's still 400 volt old school Hyundai technology. Perhaps they will change the name over to the Ionic family with the next generation if they get it some faster charging.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah,
that's what I've got today.
And by the way, I just looked it up real fast because I don't remember the last time I saw a Mitsubishi dealer. The closest one to me in Sacramento is down in Hayward. It's 78 miles away from me. And there's only 2 in all of Northern California.
Wow.
Mitsubishi dealers.
Maybe that'll change.
So none in the Bay Area, none in Sacramento. You have to go all the way down to Hayward to get a Mitsubishi dealer.
Maybe they'll buy VinFast.
Maybe VinFast will buy them. Who knows?
So we reach the EV singularity is when they buy VinFast. But it's been a great show. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Ray. Final words.
I'm just learning. Every week I learn more, and every week it causes me to have more questions. And thankfully, between you and Justin, I'm getting some answers. So I kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, and as Kimberly said earlier, I pulled up the comment when she said it, but keeping an open mind about all of it. I know Justin's not here to sell EVs to anybody. I'd never sell EVs to people. Like, I'm in California, so if you're here with me, sure, I think you could buy an EV. If you're not here with me, figure out your lifestyle, whether it's really going to work or not. I don't know that it's there for everybody, but keeping an open mind, asking the questions and getting some real answers. I say all the time, if you hate EVs, as long as you hate them for a real reason, I'm okay with that.
I agree with that.
Let's not make up reasons to hate them that aren't true. If you don't like them and you don't want it because you don't want to charge and you go on long trips all the time and you need towing capacity and fine, whatever. We're all okay with that. Just make them real reasons.
And my final words are, we need to get Ray into a test drive or a rental for a day for like a Model 3 by the end of this year. That's my final words.
We need to Turo him a Model 3 for a week so he can live with it for a week, so he can be forced to go out and charge it when he needs to charge it and see if that's convenient or inconvenient for his life.
Wow.
That's my goal. My goal is to get him into it for a week so he can really feel if it's
May I suggest you get yourself a different goal?
I'm an electric scooter.
Yeah, I don't want you to end up disappointed, and I'm afraid you will with that goal.
And my final thought for today is, Evan, you misspelled beautiful. You misspelled beautiful there. I don't know how you did that, but oh well. Beautiful truck, love it. But I hear this all the time. Oh, EVs all look the same. Then they come out with Cybertruck. Oh, that looks stupid. That's too different.
Come on,
guys, make up your mind.
I want my EV to look like a GMC Terrain.
I was the first one. The first one that came to my mind when I saw it was the Aztec.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember because of all the sharp angles in the Aztec,
Yes,
which also nobody bought. So
with good reason.
So I might be on the outside of that. Although 1.5 million pre-orders suggest I might not be on the wrong side of that. Anyway, thank you, Justin, for bringing some sanity back and giving us all the news and information. Ray, I will see you back on Tuesday with somebody
Indeed.
for something. I don't know what we're talking about yet.
We'll figure
it out.
between now and Tuesday. Come on. I got faith.
Yeah, I am working out other guests. I know we had a vote for Sandy Monroe. I have actually reached out to Sandy. I would love to just sit back and have Sandy and Ray talk. That would be the best show I think we could ever do. I wouldn't even talk. I just let those two go. I would love to see that. So I have reached out to Sandy. If you guys think there's anybody else I should reach out to, please let me know, comments, and I will get as many people as I can out.
Terrific.
Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you, Justice. Thank you, Justin.